First, I want to get you on a couple job openings because you got strong opinions.
I want to talk about the job. I want to talk about the Porter Moser thing and Indiana and Marquette. Okay, let me just ask you before. Let me ask you the question. You're Porter Moser. Let's just say hypothetically.
Marquette.
Hold on.
Marquette.
Okay. You can stay where you are. That is an option.
No, it's not.
Why is it not an option?
Because they can't pay you. Marquette can pay you double.
Why can't they pay him? I know Marquette can pay. Okay,
because Loyola doesn't have the money to pay him. Marquette has a huge budget. They can pay
the third biggest budget in college basketball.
I don't think it's third anymore. I think it's flipped down to top 10-ish, right around there.
But the new guy will get a good, even bigger budget. So you could stay where you are and just be the Gonzaga of that league and make what's he make?
It's more than $1 million now. More than $1 million.
Yeah, I think you could probably get him up to like 1.7 or something like that.
Okay. I'm like, listen, it's a private school. Right. I think they're okay, right?
Yeah.
So you could stay where you are and make $2 million, live in Chicago.
Yep.
Okay? Win 25 a year and build one of those programs.
Yep.
You go to Marquette, you could make 3.5 a year, maybe even more, get one of those life insurance deals, which are, elevated to like 4.5, 5 or whatever. Or you go to Indiana. You said Marquette. Why?
Well, I just think it fits him better. The institution fits him. Marquette and Loyola are similar institutions, right? Marquette obviously is in a bigger league. This is a guy who's 52 years old. This is probably his shot, right? He was fired from Illinois State. He was almost fired from Loyola. Like he was a year away from probably getting fired from Loyola, and then they flipped it and went to the Final Four 3 years ago. I think if you're Porter Moser, you say, like, and this is a job I'm told, according to sources, he has long coveted.
Yeah, it was Creighton, DePaul, and Marquette, right? Those are the jobs that I was told a long time ago. Those are his jobs.
And Marquette's a great job, especially to follow Wojo, who didn't win a tournament game in 7 years. Porter Moser's got the personality that Marquette will love. The other part is I don't think he'll keep his staff. Like, I think Porter's done a great job with his staff over the years. He had Brian Mullins on it, who got a head job at Southern Illinois. Now, I think if he leaves, I think Drew Valentine gets a job at Loyola Chicago, and I think he's terrific. Denzel's brother. Terrific. So I think he's had the right people on his staff, and I think he would find the right people to hire at Marquette. The big question for him would be, obviously, can he recruit at a high enough level in the Big East? I think he'd figure it out.
Rob, what would you do?
If I was Porter Moser, I would try to get as much money out of Marquette and Indiana as I could and stay at Loyola. Try to get as big of a deal, use as much leverage as I could, and try to stay at Loyola, become a legend.
He's already done it.
Work there for 15 years, build it into the Gonzaga of the Midwest. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. It's not all about money, Goodman. Some people find satisfaction in life that goes beyond money.
Listen. I was born in Milwaukee. I have a great affinity for Marquette. I almost went to Marquette with Mike Dean. Yeah. Mike Dean's such a good dude that when I told him I was going to Oklahoma State, he said, "Okay, but you're to come work camp next summer, right?" I was like,
Really?
I went and worked camp.
Cool.
He's the best. Dino's the best. He's a crazy person.
Yes.
His favorite word starts with C and has an S in it as well. And he's got that crazy eye, but I love him. But that actually would be my third choice. I'll never forget this. Huey told me once, and this is before they kind of got it back, like really, really rolling. It was when a little bit of, not a woe is me or whatever, but one of those hiring cycles, I think is when they hired Kelvin. There was an Indiana plane waiting for him after practice, and he didn't get on it. And he's like, they only ask you once. And, and it's one of those things where, like, okay, so you basically have two choices here, and none of them are named Marquette, and here's why. If you get into this thing, and you're Porter Moser, you've always wondered, like, what would it be like? I'm at Illinois State, and I'm fighting the Valley to get players. What would it be like to be Indiana and roll in and go, I'm fucking Indiana. I got 5 banners. I got candy striped pants. You just get better players, right? Which makes you look like a better coach. Plus, it's Indiana, and you were talking about following Wojo. Like, dude, look at all the guys you're following. They haven't had a dude. It's
True.
Indiana.
Yep.
The only one Indiana. Doing Indiana. Or I'm with Rob. Like, just stay and don't mess with Happy. You're gonna, that league is not nearly as good as it used to be, unfortunately. With Marquette, with Creighton and Wichita leaving, and you're the only one in Chicago. You're the only one that's gone to a Final Four. Might go to another one. Like, I think those are the two choices. I think, Marquette's in the Big East, but that doesn't, and they draw really well.
Yep.
But it's not like they're true rivals with anybody, right? They're just kind of in a league. It's a weird fit. I don't know. I think that's the third choice, even though most basketball coaches would probably say, hey, that's actually because the Big East is you don't have to actually get the McDonald's All-Americans compete at the Big East, right? I mean, that's one of the things about the Big East is it's become, it's Xavier. It's guys that people missed on a little bit, some maybe one or two really high-level recruits. And, they already have a Gonzaga, that league, they're named Villanova. Which you can compete with. Whereas the problem with the Big Ten is if your ego doesn't allow you to lose 10 games in a year, then you shouldn't go there, because there are going to be, you're going against, Jawan now, you're going against Brad now, you're going against big boy basketball.
Here's why I wouldn't want Indiana, Doug, and why I wouldn't want to go there is because I feel like the rebuild is going to be like 3 or 4 years long at minimum to be able to get that thing going again. You're not just going to get 2 recruits in there and turn this thing around immediately, right? You need to rebuild the culture. You need to get old. You need to do all the things that we've seen successful programs like Baylor and Villanova and Gonzaga do over time. And I don't know if that fan base has the patience to give you 4 years to get that thing rolling again. Especially considering that the guy that they have there right now is basically the same profile of coach as the guy that they would be bringing in if they're bringing in Porter Moser.
So I disagree with that.
I disagree with almost everything he said except that last line. But go ahead.
Me too. He's wrong on that because their personalities, Archie and Porter, couldn't be more different. Archie had no interest in Bloomington.
I'm not talking about personality. I'm talking about the fact that you're bringing in a guy from like a mid-major plus level school that's had a lot of success, that had some success in the tournament, and you're bringing him in and you're expecting him to make it happen immediately in the Big Ten. And I just don't think it's going to. I think you need 3 or 4 years at minimum. And I don't know if the fan base is going to have the patience to be able to do that before they start putting pressure on you. And I don't know. It just seems like But you'll be making more money, but your level of happiness is going to be much, much higher, and you're going to be much less stressed if you're working at a place like Loyola where they love you, where you're going to be there forever. You could work there for 20 years. He'll never get fired from Loyola now, not if he brings him to a second Final Four. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All that stuff is, Rob, you're completely right with Loyola. You can do it your way. You can bring in your kind of kids. You can have a bad year and you can sit there and go like, hey, but I can sleep at night. I don't have any issues. I don't have agents running around my campus. It's great. But, I've sat and watched film with some of these guys, and they all say the same thing. Like, if I had those guys, if I had just, I would be a much better coach. And the ball goes to the basket more,
Mm-hmm.
And look, this is the exact conversation that people had about Alabama football before they hired Nick Saban, right? Like, Alabama, they're back in the 60s and 70s. Like, the right dude gets it going. And I know that kids don't know how big the Indiana thing can be. I understand, because it hasn't really been in most of their lifetime, but the parents do. And you coaches do. And then just the proximity to players. And look, it's a really interesting one. And these are all good decisions for Porter Moser, because regardless, he's going to make more money next year. I just had this conversation like with all my friends, like, what would you do? And everybody kind of has. Rob says Loyola, Jeff says Marquette, and I think you do Indiana.